let me tell you about Metroid Zero Mission.
Like stated in my level breakdown of a sequence from Fusion, while the tail end of the 90s were a silent time for the isolated space icon Samus Aran with zero representation after Super Metroid outside of a Smash Bros. Inclusion and a few cameos, the turn of the millennium brought a proverbial renaissance for the franchise. While the fourth entry in her story was in development, it was also suggested by one of the developers that Super Metroid get the remake treatment for the Game Boy Advance, but Yoshio Sakamoto, who'd been with the series since its beginning, suggested the NES original get the remake instead, given how different the ideas for the upcoming Fusion felt from the series' roots. It was to give any new gamers who might be jumping on with the latest entry a chance to look at a place where it all began, and so development ran from there. Featuring a rebuilt engine from Fusion, the game decided to run with this and add features / more story elements to tell a deeper origin story than the ambiguous style seen on the NES Classic, that I'll also share my thoughts on in this video. While there were other options during development to give it connectivity with all of the other Metroid that Nintendo was just showering around in the 2000s, I really feel spoiled for this in hindsight, it instead only has connectivity with the game it shares its genes with, Fusion. After garnering some hype with exposure in the convention circuit that year, it was released with overwhelming praise, and stands as easily one of the best remakes not only within Nintendo, but of all time. I'm talking about a contemporary spin that laid the foundation for a genre that was Metroid Zero Mission.
You know, while I appreciate and respect the foundation that the original Metroid laid the groundwork for, especially when it comes to helping create a genre of gaming that I still love and love to see thrive to this day, I appreciate that this remake adorns some of the convention scene and some of the games that have been inspired by this and created a much more narrative-fulfilling experience and a bit of a beefier package, because for all of the appreciation I have for the first Metroid, I think that it does have some problems that needed an update that this remake handles gracefully. You know, and that doesn't just come with a graphical upgrade, which does help with the really broad conveyance and samey level design seen in the original. You know, they do adorn some of the philosophy of presentation, the shift in soul seen in Fusion, but I'll get to that in a second. I do like that outside of that shift in soul, though, the core Metroid is still here. It just looks fantastic with the graphical upgrade in Zero Mission. It's so hard to get lost in this. Plus, there's a map. There's no map in the original. Even just having a map makes this game that much better. But, with that said, the core game that's here is still a classic. You know, Kraid, Ridley, Mother Brain, still here, still great. The Kraid fight's even better, if anything, because it's the fight that is much better from Super Metroid as opposed to the original. But I like that. Outside of that, in tandem with the more adorning of kiting the player along similarly to Fusion, I think it works with Zero Mission because this adventure isn't very big either, so it gives the player a chance to unravel the world without getting too far too fast. You know, it's easy to push outside of your own boundaries in Zero Mission, similarly to Fusion. So I think that the guiding along works really well and helps keep the mysteries within this game at a good distance, because early on you see stuff with the Chozos and there's a lot of mystery seen there, but it doesn't really come to fruition until the end of the game, which I really appreciate. It's a good planting and payoff moment, and I like that outside of having the core game here and, you know, go to Kraid, fight Kraid, there's also these little bosses that crop up amidst that give Samus the other powers that she had from Super Metroid and Fusion that I think are integrated incredibly well into this original adventure, even though they weren't there in the first place, and further helps contemporize this or modernize this for a new audience, or even old audiences, to sort of play this game again and find a newfound respect for a game that had a good foundation at its core. It just needed a little spicing up. This is the perfect example of like a redacted in a game form. Like this remake does so much and goes so far with fleshing out Samus as a character, making this first adventure far more playable across generations, and just brings this adventure into the modern age.
Even just the existence of cutscenes between areas to show off that Ridley and Mother Brain are almost tailing you and watching you throughout this adventure creates this overall looming sense of paranoia, or dread, as it were, that they are these big baddies that you will have to fight, and it puts them to scale as far as threats in the game.
I like that there's still a lot here to uncover, and there's a lot of nooks and crannies to explore, and similarly to Fusion, this game just opens up for the player at the perfect point to sort of seek out everything, like a good Metroidvania does. You know, it still has the pacing of a Metroid game, and it's still a compact adventure, but that kiting along, I feel like, just does a lot for flavor text, because one of the things that made the original Metroid so impactful is its soundtrack and its sound design. Like, the whole cold, atmospheric, instrumental palette feels lost a bit. And while you still start this game with the same hindrances as that game, you got so low health, you can only shoot so far, and even though you get the morph ball, it feels pretty useless until you get the bombs. The guiding along makes you feel all the more powerless, which I feel like, and isolated and alone, which I feel like was one of the strengths of the original Metroid as well. You know, and again, it gives you that much more gratifying of a payoff once you get stripped of all of your powers post-Mother Brain and have to continue to dive into this mystery. But I like that the kiting along in tandem with the cutscenes enhance that feeling of exploration amidst isolation and helplessness so very well, or at least weakness. You know, the progression of Samus feels just as strong as this, as I feel like it does in Fusion and Super Metroid, thanks to that shift in soul, personally. I don't think every Metroid game needs to be like this, but I think this and Fusion and Prime to some degree do a good job at that. You know, I really enjoy the overall pacing of this game as well. You know, one of the other things I really enjoy from this game, outside of having the core adventure here and adding some of those bosses, is the whole back third almost of the game that it adds post Mother Brain. Because you think, alright, I've killed Mother Brain, I'm going to go off and save it and be done. The day is saved. No. You're getting shot down, stripped of your suit, and you've got to survive amidst the space pirates who have stolen your shit. I love this sequence. I think that it's great at showing just how frail you can be. I love the implementation of stealth, having to hide from the space pirates. You know, going through the Chozo Temple and hiding in the shadows from them is a great touch. You know, I think that it's a really tense sequence that gets me really anxious playing it in a great way. You know, it's a great way to strip the player back and watch them immediately grow to their maximum potential once you get into the Chozo Temple and get your ultimate ultra suit before you fight Mecha Ridley. You know, and I love that the subtle twist, you know, now that you are all powerful, the space pirates are hiding from you. Stuff like that, I just think is really good. Again, that evolution of world that's Metroid Fusion and this game do so well. Ultimately, I think Zero Mission is the essential way to play the first Metroid. Similarly to other remakes that have come across in recent years, like I think Nightmare in Dreamland is the essential way to play Kirby's Adventure. You know, the Resi 1 remake might be the essential way to play the first Resident Evil, possibly. Zero Mission is another one of those remakes that just modernizes a classic in a way that makes the original just seem so less. And not necessarily in that much of a detractor way. I can understand people that like the first Metroid or have fond nostalgia for it. It was just a game that I wasn't a kid when I played it, and Zero Mission gave me that same feeling I'm sure it gave others back in the 80s. You know, it's great at expounding on a classic in ways that I think are necessary. And when it came out, it was seen as such. This remake has been given nothing but heavy praise, and I feel like, again, it's not an expensive game, so I feel like if you've got a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy player, I feel like it's an essential game to play if you like the genre that birthed from Metroid and Castlevania. You know, the whole search action subgenre. Zero Mission is a quintessential remake. It's a quintessential Game Boy Advance game, and as a fan of Metroid, I'm glad that Metroid 1 got its due. You know, so did Metroid 2 later on in a completely different way, but I like what they did with Zero Mission. I think that it's a quality remake, it's a fun remake, and it adds a lot of really cool sequences to entice the player as they comb through and give them this dynamic experience across the adventure. And it's great. And that's my thoughts on Metroid Zero Mission. Obviously, this is made because of hype for Dread. I almost said for Fusion, but for Dread. So hopefully you're excited for that. Hopefully you like this review. What are your thoughts on Metroid Zero Mission? What's your favorite Metroid game? Let me know in those comments down below. If you did like this review, or this reflection, this retrospective, whatever, give it a like. If you want to see more of my music, gaming, and general notary content, be sure to subscribe. Special thanks to my patrons if you want to join the ranks to get early access to content, exclusive content, or to help drive the community. It's linked in the description. I'm going to get out of here, though. Thank you again so very much for watching. I've been Viral Rack. You guys have good days, lives, and situations. And I'll see you another day.